Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
Welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon, as we got just a couple days left until game time. Arkansas and Tennessee happening in Fayetteville, which I know we'll talk a lot about. We'll get into some basketball news. I guess the Slobber Hog thing's becoming a real thing, so we'll get into that as well. But fellas, how we feeling on a Thursday?
Man, pretty good, hanging in there. This is the first time I'm a big organizer. You know, I always have the to-do list or whatever. This is the first time since we started this thing that I just feel like I'm falling very, very much behind. There's a lot on the plate to get figured out today, but it's nice to take a little break and hang out with you guys for 90 minutes here on Inside Arkansas Live. That's for sure.
It is always just funny how no matter what happens in our business, we've been covering the team for a while. You know, you guys longer than me. Anytime we're like, dude, what are we going to talk about? Like, what are we going to do? Like, if they lose this game, then we always find random stuff to talk about. But we're burying the lead here. We got to just go ahead and get it off the top. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Johnny boy. Happy birthday to you.
I'll take that.
Hey,
Thank you, Andrew.
Turned 29 5 or 6 times max. I told Michelle that when she turned 29 for the 6th time last week, and I'm telling you that too. 29 forever.
Thank you, Andrew. That may have been the best rendition of Happy Birthday I've ever received, because it meant something.
He was going to join me, but he just decided, he was like, I'm just going to let Andrew handle it. It's cool. It's fine. Yeah. Whatever.
You knew that Curtis was not going to be like, oh yeah, let me jump in on this to start the show. But no, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's amazing that my birthday is the two most famous things on my birthday is referred with, or at least on the same day, is the Mean Girls meme, because that's what everybody gets posted about. And there's the day that O.J. Simpson got acquitted in 1995. So I got that going for me.
Okay. Gee.
that's what I got. But no, we appreciate it. And we're going to have a lot to get to, of course, today, and talking some football. We'll get to your phone calls and your chats too. If you want to call in, 478-344-6623 is that number to call in. And, guys, we've talked a lot about this team and about this matchup. And, tomorrow we'll get into our predictions and all that great stuff too. But, the thing is that the offense, of course, has been a little bit, let's just be honest. It's been leaving a lot to be desired over the past couple of games. It has not been crisp. They've turned the ball over a lot. They've been kind of inconsistent at times. And it's really had issues in pretty much every facet of the game at some point this season. We've seen a game where the offensive line was really bad. We've seen games where the wide receivers struggled. We've seen games where Taylen Green struggled. We've seen the games where the running backs can't get anything going. And we've talked all about that. But the thing is, we haven't really brought up as much, because nobody's talking about this, as they always say, is Bobby Petrino, the offensive coordinator. In the day, it's his job to make this offense go. And it's not going to get any easier. So I pose the question to you guys, as well as the entire audience. What does Bobby Petrino need to do to get this offense going? And how much criticism is he going to need to receive if this offense can't get it going and continues to have the problems that they have?
I think he's already starting to do some of the things that he needs to do. We saw in the second half against Texas A&M. You gotta, again, we hate it, but you got to simplify the game a little bit for Taylen Green. He's thinking too much. He's rattled, whatever, not confident, whatever you want to throw in there, depending on who said what. Got to get the ball out of his hands quicker. Got to move the pocket. Anything you can do to counteract an offensive line that can't operate in pass pro, more screens, whatever. We started to see some of that, but what we haven't seen yet is for him to fully tailor the game plan around it. And I think it was after the Auburn game when Arkansas won, but we were all pretty much under consensus of, okay, I think you're starting to get an idea of like what Arkansas really can do and what they can't do offensively. And so maybe this is where we start to see Petrino really tailor things around that. I don't know that he necessarily did that against Texas A&M, although he did start to make some adjustments in the second half of that game. That's kind of where I'm at with it. And then, it was just kind of weird to me that they abandoned the run. I understand they weren't having a lot of success, on first down or whatever, but I mean, he's the guy, the feed the studs guy, right? And your stud got the ball 10 times in that football game. So you got to get Jaquindon Jackson going and involved as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit, not as much the Bobby Petrino aspect, but we felt like last week was a little bit of an eye opener for this Arkansas team, and they realized, okay, this offensive line situation, we really can't protect in 3rd and long. Like, we just don't have the guys to do it. And like Curtis said, he mixed in some screen game, mixed in some quick passing to get the ball out of Taylen's hands quicker, a little bit in the second half, and they abandoned the run game a little bit, which I guess they just felt like was the best way to do it. But for me, it really comes down to understanding what you have, understanding your personnel, and an offensive coordinator is only as good as the tools he has to operate with. But again, he handpicked Taylen Green, so we thought there would be a pretty firm understanding from Bobby Petrino of what Taylen Green can and can't do, and I think they've learned a little bit throughout this season. But I guess I didn't expect that to take as long as it has. I think they now understand that Jaquindon Jackson is their guy, their offensive weapon. They know Andrew Armstrong's the guy in the receiver in the passing game, and they found some other receivers they feel like they can count on a little bit in Satania and Tesla. But I guess for me, preseason to now, I didn't expect there to be this much of an adjustment period in terms of just finding out what you are as an offense. Finding that identity is the word we like to throw around a lot. And so I think it really just comes down to what can Bobby Petrino do better. I think it's just tailoring, like Curtis said, tailoring this offense to those pieces a little bit better, and finding the best position to put them in a position to succeed. That's what every OC does. And so we've seen flashes of it. I mean, it's not like it's been all bad from this offense, but I think in SEC play, that's when you really find out who you are. And I think Arkansas has found out during SEC play, we don't like our offense as much as we thought we did. And so, we'll see how they adjust to that. I think this weekend's a tough test where even if you were firing on all cylinders, this Tennessee game probably wouldn't be a game to shine offensively. And so we'll see what it looks like. But moving forward, I do think Bobby is starting to gain more of an understanding, even if it is a bad understanding of what he can and can't do with these pieces.
Yeah, and we're never going to hear really from Bobby Petrino as the year goes on, and he'll probably never admit it, even if we did get a chance to hear from him. But it always makes me wonder, which he's still got 7 games, still a lot of season left. A lot of things can change, but it makes me wonder in his head that, man, I thought I could fix Taylen Green's accuracy issues. I thought maybe I could fix this stuff, and it's not there. So yeah, maybe I was wrong about this. Like, I'm not saying that that's what he's saying, but it makes you wonder if that kind of plays a little bit into it. Because if you're Bobby Petrino, and this goes for any coach, not just Bobby Petrino, but if you're Bobby Petrino and you have coached the great quarterbacks that he's coached and you've had the great offenses that he's had, you sometimes can just be in your own mind of like, I can fix anyone. I can change anyone. I can develop anyone. It doesn't matter. And when you go out there and you start scouting, trying to look around at quarterbacks and you see this 6'6", really fast guy up there at Boise State that you can at least maybe afford in the NIL type of thing, and you like his personality and his approach and his coachability and everything, you're like, that's my guy. Because he's got accuracy issues and he wasn't even the starter, but man, look at that explosiveness. I can just do a little of my magic here and boom, he's going to be a big time player. And it just hasn't happened that way. In fact, you could make the argument that we've seen Taylen Green, what he did at Boise State, kind of the same here. Like, nothing's really changed and nothing's really developed. Nothing's really gotten better. I wouldn't say it's gotten worse. Maybe the competition's gotten a lot better. I think that's a fact. But I just will wonder if that's something that Petrino and this offense is maybe a little bit nervous about, of this is not going the way we expected it to go because we expected more out of Taylen Green and we expected to be able to make him into a better product than what he's showing.
I'm glad you said that, John, because during fall camp on August 21st, actually, we did a show, Inside Arkansas Live, where the title of the show was Concerns with Bobby Petrino as offensive coordinator. And you posed a question to Andrew and I of essentially everybody's just assuming that this is going to be, perfect harmony and Petrino is going to come back and this thing is going to be humming. But that's still assumption. What would it take? Like, what would be the factors for that not to be the case? And everything that we're seeing right now is exactly what we talked about. And I have the clip ready. I'm happy to play it if you guys want to listen to it.
Yeah, give it to us.
I'm anxious to hear this clip. Let's hear what we had to say.
Do you have concerns or any concerns actually about Bobby Petrino being the offensive coordinator this year?
I don't know that I would say my concerns would be about Bobby Petrino being the offensive coordinator. I mean, I will say it is interesting how it's just a unanimous, overwhelming, oh, Bobby P's here, offense is going to be cooking. Like, it's just almost like a foregone conclusion. In terms of Bobby Petrino, the man and the mind and the offensive play caller, no, I don't have any concerns at all, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee to me that this offense is going to be really, really good. They do need some things to go right. I mean, if it was to go wrong with this offense, why would that be the case? I mean, I think it starts with me. If his handpicked quarterback is closer to the Boise State version of himself than the one that we think is going to be really good after being touched by the quarterback whisperer, right? Because this team, no doubt, needs, I mean, Taylen Green has to be not just a good version, but the best version of himself at a higher level than he's ever played. So there's obviously, yes, a lot of reasons why he was identified and Bobby went out there and got him, but he has to be better than he was at Boise State for this Arkansas team to be successful, for this Arkansas team to get to a bowl game or whatever goals they might have. So if it were to go wrong, for me, it starts right there.
Yeah, Curtis, I agree. It's not like I have any concern over Bobby's offensive mind or his ability to field a good offense. Like, we've seen all of this. It's been proven over the years. But if you just look at any head coach or any play caller's resume, you realize that context matters. It's not like every year that Bobby Petrino is running an offense, it's a high-level offense. I mean, last year at A&M, weirdly enough, kind of gives me some optimism. Like, their numbers when I was looking at them today were a little bit better than I kind of thought they were. I think they were top 25 nationally in scoring and yardage. Of course, Arkansas is not going to have as much talent as A&M had on the offensive side of the ball, but he did have 3 different quarterbacks. But, I mean, if you go look at his time at Louisville, and I mean the second stint at Louisville when he was a head coach, it was very Lamar Jackson dependent. The 3 years that Lamar was his quarterback, elite offense, top 10, top 15 and everything. The year before Lamar, 74th in scoring. The year after Lamar, bottom 10 in the country in yardage. It kind of context matters. And so I agree, Curtis, that the Taylen Green aspect of this is one that, again, we're doing a lot of assuming. And again, we're optimistic because we've seen Taylen Green kind of grow this offseason. We like what we've been hearing. We feel like they have a nice little relationship, he and Bobby. But yeah, I agree. I think it's weird that anyone thinks it's a foregone conclusion one way or the other. That they're confident it's going to be a disaster, or that they're confident it's going to be fired on all cylinders and all that. I think that just with any team, you're only as good. It's kind of it's a big picture. It's not going to be based on Bobby Petrino is just going to make this offense good. Like, if this offensive line sucks, it doesn't really matter as much what Bobby's got cooking up there. And if Taylen Green sucks, part of it doesn't really matter that much. Yeah. So it's like, I look at Bobby Petrino's resume, and it's not a foolproof resume. The years where the pieces all came together, very good. We think this Arkansas offense has a chance. It has some good pieces. We think they have a chance to be pretty good. But you can see, things can blow up quickly on any coach, and Bobby Petrino's no exception.
How about that?
Well, all right. Well, there you go. There you have it. A little bit of a lengthy clip, but obviously the 2 biggest things here have been, Taylen Green being closer to the Boise State guy than, what we hoped he would make in terms of progression. And then obviously had to get there to the end where Andrew touched on, if the offensive line stinks, none of this matters. And so here we are. Unfortunate that that's where they're at. Maybe they can clean some of it up. Maybe they can. I don't know just yet what that's going to mean. I guess the good thing is a bye week's coming up, and you're going to have 2 weeks to kind of figure it out and maybe work out some kinks. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think, in hindsight, the mistake that we made, and, I'm glad I said that at the end of if the offensive line sucks, none of this matters. I think we just gave this offensive line too much credit in the offseason. I say we, really, I'm lumping myself in as a lot there, because I just kind of assumed they would be better. And I was like, I just kind of was willing to look past how bad it was last year. And I know it's completely different pieces, sure. But I felt like that group had a lot better connective tissue, and they were working together and all that. I didn't think the talent was super high, and it turns out it really just might not be enough. And so, it is very weird. And honestly, I don't feel terribly dissimilar now than I did in the offseason. I don't think Taylen is substantially worse than I thought he was going to be. He's not better. He's been more or less exactly as advertised, if you ask me. But yeah, the offensive line was worse than I expected. The receiving core is definitely a little bit less surefire than I expected outside of Andrew Armstrong. And so, yeah, none of us saw the Lucas thing coming. And so you go on down the line, and it's how it works. And like I said in the clip, context matters. And it's not like either of us were feeling super confident that Arkansas was going to struggle offensively. I could have seen it going either way. I wouldn't have been stunned if we were playing this clip and we look like idiots because Taylen Green was like a top 3 quarter. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just have to see it. And now that we've seen it, I think some of our initial concerns have been realized a little bit.
Well, first off, I'm just glad that I wasn't wearing the same shirt today that I was in that clip. That was going to be really embarrassing if any of us were doing that.
It was weird watching us twice.
Yeah, it's like
that was kind of weird.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a different time zone or something.
Hers was fresh off a haircut.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's like we can go back and see what state of mind we were in back then. But no, like that's the thing with Petrino is I believe that the overall idea is there and the overall play calling and the setup, it's all of that, but the execution is what's been lacking a little bit. I've heard people kind of bring up, and maybe we've even talked about it on this show, that if you compare what's going on this year offensively to maybe what they were doing in Bobby Petrino's first year as head coach in like 2008, when they had Casey Dick at quarterback and they had a bunch of freshmen, a bunch of guys that maybe could end up being good, but just really a ragtag group. There were a lot of interceptions. There was some quarterback problems because I think Casey Dick and Nathan Dick both were playing back and forth. I think Tyler Wilson even got in on a little action that season, and they were just trying to find their way a little bit. And that's like back then it was fine because he was the head coach. It was year 1, and people were seeing a bunch of freshmen that looked like, hey, these guys in a couple of years can be really good. Well, that's not the case right now. Like it could be similar, but it's a completely different time frame because now it's not first year. This is do or die year. This isn't you're not getting the quarterback. These are just the quarterbacks that you got. No, it's like you went out and chose this quarterback. Same thing with the running backs. And maybe we just have a bunch of freshmen. No, in fact, you don't. The majority of your offense is not freshmen and not even sophomores. A lot of them are seasoned veteran guys. Granted, a lot of them from other schools from last year, but you just can't really compare that. And that's what I think has been the biggest concern for me is because, as everybody knows, I'm the biggest Bobby Petrino fan there is. But to see just the lack of the killer instinct, like the crispness of what this offense has been done. Because even back then, in his first year, you saw what they were trying to do. You saw it, but it was just like, man, they just don't have the horses yet. And the thing is I think they do have the horses. It's just not together. It's not compounded. It's not moving forward as a collective unit because, I don't know, it's like sometimes we feel like the offensive line looks good. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes felt like the wide receivers look good. Sometimes they don't. Taylen Green looks good one day. Sometimes you don't. The inconsistencies is what's been, I guess, the biggest surprise to me for Petrino offense. And they got a lot of work to do, but that's the problem. They don't have time. Time is now. They got to get something going.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right, man. Consistency is always key. And I don't know, like it is weird. And I understand like the competition level is different at the beginning of the season, but it was like, God, man, like they're moving the ball up and down the field. And it's just a matter of whether or not they can finish in the red zone was kind of the thing early on. And there was, turnovers here and there. But now I'm almost feeling like, and again, maybe it's just the competition. I don't know, but it seems like, yeah, they're really not moving the ball up and down the field that much. It's almost like they need a huge play or Green to go, rogue and make a big play for them to score. And so what have they done in SEC? Like 24 against Auburn, 17 against A&M, points wise. And then the yardage, we knew it was going to come back down to earth. Like they weren't going to get 650 yards a game this season. But we've seen that get trimmed down substantially too. I'm hoping that this isn't regression to the mean, but that it's like, we've had a high point and now we're having a low point, and the true Arkansas offense, maybe that actually lies somewhere in between the two. Because if you get that, then you're probably, maybe it's not as great as people hoped it would be. Certainly not as bad as it has been, like last weekend. And it's just pretty good. Maybe that's the middle ground for them, or at least if I'm trying to be optimistic.
Yeah, and if I'm trying to be pessimistic, the thing that would concern me is that it doesn't seem like they're making strides. And obviously, you touched on different competition and all that. It just doesn't seem like if you go group by group that they're each kind of working toward the same thing. They're all going the same direction, because we always argue about the quarterback, or we all argue about the play caller, argue about O-line or individual pieces, but all of it kind of affects each other. If the O-line has a bad rep, the quarterback's going to look bad on that rep. If the receivers have a bad rep, the quarterback's going to look bad on there. If the quarterback has a bad rep, the O-line, it all matters together. And so, we've seen all of these position groups that we're talking about have moments of brilliance. We've seen the O-line really create push in the run game and get that. We've seen moments there. Their pass protection against Texas A&M, PFF, according to them, they think it was pretty good. But then we see moments when the game's on the line, they allow a huge strip sack. It just seems like, again, we always do the whack-a-mole thing, but it just seems like Arkansas, there's always going to be something wrong. And week to week, you just never really know. It might be turnovers. It might be they can't run the ball. It might be nobody gets open. It might be Andrew Armstrong's banged up and, is going to the sideline yelling at his right tackle all the time or whatever. But I don't have a ton of confidence that this group is going to make strides throughout the year and get better, because it doesn't seem like they're on the same page at all. And so if we're going to have criticism for Bobby Petrino, I think that's the one area where it's fair, because all the pieces, the offensive line, I'm not going to blame him too much for. The quarterback, I'll blame him because he picked him, but it's I'm also Taylen is who he is. He knew what Taylen is. It is what it is. But I just feel like the connective tissue with this offense just doesn't seem to be there, and it doesn't seem like we're seeing the best version of it. And I guess that's what's frustrating. And so we'll see if they're able to break through this weekend. But it's so funny. Everyone's trying to point and find the one thing to blame it on when it's the whole freaking picture. Quit trying to ignore other pieces and be like, no, it's on this person or this group or the coach, or it's all everyone deserves a fair share of blame for the fact that this Arkansas offense is starting to take steps back.
Yeah, but people that are always talking about Taylen Green is hey, let's give Malachi Singleton a shot. Okay, so where are the people that say, hey, maybe we should get Tykeus Crawford more run in the offensive line? Where are those people? Because it's hey, if you don't like what the offensive line's doing, then go up for the backups. Do it that way. But it's always about kind of one thing that they're pointing out. And we'll get to the chats and phone calls in here a second, and because I just wanted to also reiterate the point that I was making with the first year under Petrino back in 2008. The other difference in that is that offense got better as the year went on. They started the year where they barely beat Western Illinois 26-22, and then they needed a fourth down Cowboy go get them to beat, I believe, was it Louisiana Monroe? Yeah, Louisiana Monroe there in Little Rock, and everyone was like, "Jeez, this is terrible." But then what happened at the end of the year? They beat LSU in Little Rock, coming back from 30-14 down, and the offense was a big reason for that. So you saw progression. I haven't seen progression. There really hasn't been any progression. That's what you have to do in these next 7 games. No one's expecting you to go out and beat Tennessee and beat Texas, but can you at least show that the offense is improving? Because if not,
right,
it's been a disaster if that's the case.
And is it? I don't know. I'm having a hard time with this because I know a lot of people are on the get Taylen Green out of there, start Malachi Singleton train, or and we mentioned different guys on the offensive line or whatever. Is it that bad to where these massive changes need to happen right now? Or are people just afraid, kind of like what we're saying, they're trending in the wrong direction, it's not going to get better, you don't want it to bottom out? Or because I don't know, because I still look at it and what were the expectations for this team coming into the season? And are they really that far below that? I mean, they are 3-2. Yes, they should have won the couple games that they didn't, but 2 one-score losses. You're 1-1 in the SEC. You're kind of on pace to make a bowl game, which people were thinking, yeah, that hopefully they do that, and maybe they don't. Are they that far? Has this thing really gone to hell here?
Well, no, Curtis, I would say it's not gotten that bad. It's just that they're that close. And that's what people are saying, where it's okay, well, we're losing a 1-score game just to sub here on this guy, or, just put in this player, and that'll be the difference in a 1-score game. I think it's not about being bad. It's about just being so close that you're just trying to figure out what's the little bit switch that you can make in order to make you win those 1-score games.
I'm not trying to be mean here, but guys, there has to be some nuance, and not y'all. I'm talking about the fans here. There needs to be some nuance to these conversations. Do y'all remember last year when people did the same thing where they were like, maybe they should start Jacoby Criswell? That was a real conversation we had with people last year. People wanted to see Jacoby Criswell start. They were like, oh, I saw him in that opening game. He had a rocket arm, man. I heard he can throw a good deep ball and all that. People are going to do the quarterback situation no matter what. But since we're playing the pulling up our preseason takes, we need to find the clips when we talked about Taylen Green preseason, because that's another thing is I think that people had weird expectations for whatever reason that, Bobby Petrino was going to have this offense rolling and Taylen Green was going to be awesome. We all were on the same page. We saw what he did at Boise State. we felt like he would have a chance to be better than that at Arkansas. But like, again, to your point, like he's been pretty much as advertised. And so it's like, I don't understand why that is the move to make. And also, I just don't understand how it's like, oh, if you think a redshirt junior is overwhelmed in this offense, why the hell would you want to put in a redshirt freshman who, by the way, for everyone, because I saw some people, they're like, we won't know until they put Singleton out there. They literally put him out there and then immediately regretted it, which, like, I know is one possession and, okay, I guess it takes more than one, but like they saw one possession, saw what they needed to see, and were like, okay, actually, this isn't the move. And so, I mean, yeah, would you rather him play the full half against Tennessee and stink then, and then you'd be like, all right, yeah, let's just roll with Taylen Green? Like, I think people doing the quarterback conversation is just failing to acknowledge any other nuance or context in this conversation. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that it's you're in the moment, and if you ever go back and you like look at people's Twitter, and you can even do it with mine, like during a game, and seeing the tweets that were put out in the beginning and seeing the tweets that are put out in the end, it's like you're just in that moment. And it's like you look back and some of your tweets, you're like, man, I was an idiot for being concerned about that because it ended up being okay. Or I was an idiot for thinking it was fine and then ended up being a problem. But you live in that moment, and then we just try to move on from it and forget about it. But yeah, people forget about that with the Jacoby Criswell thing and forget about all that because they've just moved on. But it keeps happening. It keeps happening over and over and over again. So we'll get to some of these chats. First off, shout out to Witty F because, of course, appreciate the happy birthday. Which is, he says, I got you a cake, but Broden dropped it. Jeez, man. I mean, if there was ever a guy that could figure out more about making jokes about one thing, it is Witty. It's almost like that's his name, and it's fitting. But yes, thank you for the happy birthday wishes, as well as from Walmart. It says, happy birthday to the GOAT. I don't know who the GOAT is. It ain't me. But go get you a $20 bag of beef jerky from your local Walmart. Why not get some those Razorback chicken nuggets? Figure like that. Those are about $20. So, anyways, thank you. Appreciate
pretty
that.
Good.
And also, here in the chat, some people are saying, like, Vitz for me was like, Bobby P is the third highest paid coordinator in the conference. Are we satisfied with our offensive production for that pay? I wanted to bring this up because I feel like that is something that irritates me about pay and like, this is what they're getting paid. So therefore, if they're not since he's the third highest paid coordinator, if they're not having the third best offense or better, then, what are we paying them for? It's like, I don't care. It's not our money. It's not like our taxes are getting raised because they got to go out and get a new coach for one. I don't care how much money he's making. Like, if he's making $3 million, is he successful or not? Don't care. If he's making $200,000, is he successful or not? Don't care. That's what matters. I don't care about how much he makes. Does not ever come into the equation. I'll never understand.
Who's always going to be at the top of these lists of the highest paid coaches? The most recently hired coaches, because that's how this stuff works. Whoever gets hired as an OC in the SEC next year, he'll be making more than Bobby's making this year. And the year after that, whoever gets hired, he's going to be making more than that guy. So, like, this is a complete non-story, I would say.
So if Tennessee...
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so if Tennessee is, one of the best defenses in the country, and they come in here on Saturday and Arkansas has a couple turnovers and they score 14 points or whatever and lose, are we going to start the fire Bobby thing, 6 games into returning back here? I mean, what are we doing?
You say it, but people will.
I know. That's why I said it. Get out in front of it now. It's unbelievable, man.
Smitty says, what key statistical category do you think will be the most influence in the game's once outcome, turnover margin, or red zone efficiency? Happy birthday. No, thank you. I'll say this, like, when looking at the game notes and seeing that Arkansas is dead last in the SEC in red zone offense and Tennessee's number 1 in red zone defense, I'm like, that doesn't seem like a very good, like, deal. But at the same time, it's, to me, always going to be about the turnover margin.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest indicator of anything.
If both teams say, or, play their A game, Tennessee wins, Yeah. So it's, you have to create some havoc there. You absolutely have to. And what's more likely, is it that Arkansas suddenly cleans things up and they don't turn it over at all, or that you're able to force some turnovers out of the redshirt freshman quarterback at Tennessee? I think it's probably more likely that you force them into a couple mistakes.
For sure. And I mean, turnover margin and red zone efficiency are like, those have the like biggest Like if you the win probability things, when you like have the big swing, when you turn the ball over, that win probability swings a lot. Red zone swings a lot, and so yeah, I mean these are always going to be huge, but I think the turnover margin is one that like Arkansas. I know they did it against Auburn weirdly enough because they first forced 20 turnovers. They just simply have to have some games here down the stretch where they don't have a -2 in that department, man. It's just it's
tough.
crazy that this offense is just you just pencil them in for 2 a game.
And also, too, like if you want to look at it in a whole nother perspective, I know you're never going to have a perfect game, but just think of it this way. If Arkansas doesn't turn the ball over, they're 5-0 right now. I mean, they are. That, like, if you just take away that whole thing, if they did not turn the ball over against Oklahoma State once, and they did not turn it over against A&M once, they're 5-0.
Hell, you could even say if you just like take like maybe 1 or 2 of those, like maybe if Jaquan Jackson doesn't drop the pitch, maybe if Taylen doesn't throw that stupid end of half interception against A&M, like there's, you don't even have to like, it didn't have to be 0 turnovers. It just, they've had a couple that have just been backbreakers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those have been the rough ones there too. All right, let's go to the phone lines. 478-344-6623 is the number. Residential caller here. It's got to be Trey from Harrison. What's up, Trey?
How you doing today, John?
Doing good, Trey. How about yourself?
Oh, also, happy birthday.
Thank you, Trey.
You
Appreciate
had,
you.
Redneck Buble over there singing a nice happy birthday song.
Yeah,
Dang, you got some pipe.
yeah, it was beautiful.
Real quick, I want to hit some basketball, and then I got to comment on football. Curtis, who is going to be like the player that all fans just dislike because he either missed shots, makes a bunch of turnovers? And then real quick on the football team, it's like an old truck. You fix one thing, something else breaks. You fix that thing, something else breaks. It's just back and forth. Also, Tykees Crawford, I've not heard that name. You say that, next week we're going to hear, Tykees Crawford, he needs to get the right tackle reps. But yeah,
It's coming. It's just
we
a
need
matter of
hat-trick Huddy and two-pick TJ to come out in this game. Combined for 9 interceptions.
Oh, well,
9?
well,
All right, see y'all later.
appreciate it, Trey. Jeez.
basketball in terms of the guy who becomes the villain or like the scapegoat for any Razorback struggles will probably be Trevin Brazile because he was that a lot of last year. So that wouldn't necessarily surprise me. In terms of newcomers, I would probably look at DJ Wagner because he was that guy for Kentucky last year. Right. So maybe if he had some struggles, he'd be that guy at Arkansas, especially if you have a freshman who I think is going to be a fan favorite at the same position in Boogie Fland, who's balling out. I could see some people doing that thing there. But Trevin's the easy answer for me.
Trevin is easily, just by this offseason, looking at the comments, the most polarizing player on the team, dude.
Yeah, man.
I've seen some people that just freaking hate Trevin Brazile, but I've also seen, I think he's going to be a stud. He's going to be, one of the best players on the team. He's going to have a lot of, and he'll have nights where he's both, where he's the scapegoat and he goes 3 for a 9 or whatever, and they hate him, but he'll hit 4 threes in the game and he'll be a first-round pick again. It's just going to be that kind of thing.
As long as he doesn't kick a guy like he did in the Bahamas, then I'm good with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I don't know. I want to look up how many technicals has he got? Not flagrants, but like just technicals for mouthing. I feel like there's been a few of those.
Too many. Yeah, too many. And he had a run right there in the early non-conference last season where he was getting like 1 a game. And it's like, all right, dude.
You got to chill out, man. You're killing us over
Relax.
here.
Edgy last year. He needs to be less edgy this year.
Yeah.
Yes, very, very much so. I tell you what, that's a perfect segue because we got to talk about this and bring it up because we mentioned it yesterday about the old Slobber Hog getting back on the court because you had your Hunter Yurachek and the U of A putting out these little teaser videos of like, what's going on here? We're changing the court. What do you think? And it got people all hyped up and excited, which, is marketing 101. It's a good way of doing it. Well, then it got anteed up a little bit last night because you had Hunter Yurachek quote tweet that and said this: hearing some chatter on the slobbering hog, I'll make you a deal. I just received a matching gift offer of $500,000. If we can raise an additional $500,000 for Arkansas Edge NIL before 5 p.m. on October 7th, we will put the beloved slobbering hog logo back at midcourt at Bud Walton Arena. To which John Calipari then also quote tweeted it and said, "Since I got on campus in April, I've had so many people bring up the Slobbering Hog and Bud Walton. Razorback fans have a chance to make that happen now."
I've got a handful of thoughts on this.
Me too.
It's like, whatever. You're trying to get creative and find different ways to encourage people to donate, get the NIL up. Like, he's just doing his job. That's part of it.
Yep.
Guys, Slobbering Hog is going to be on the court.
Yep.
He wouldn't have said this if that wasn't going to be the case. And he gives you 5 days. All right, it's not like on October 7th he's going to pull the numbers and be like, "Well, Razorback fans, you rose $450,000, close but no cigar, front-facing hog it is." He's not going to do that, okay? But this is a good thing, though. And so I like, whatever. Hey, donate. You want it, then go for it. And I think that they probably have a pretty good idea that they're going to be able to match said donation or whatever. Otherwise, there's no way he's that narrow-minded to have done that. But I think just get excited, because I think it's a pretty high likelihood that Slobber Hog's going to be on the floor. And I just also have to add this too. It doesn't cost $500,000 to paint that damn thing on the court. Okay. I've done the budgeting for this before on what it takes to sand a floor and put it down. It ain't $500,000. If they want to put it down there, it's just a choice that they make to do it. Let's go ahead and be clear about that. Like, you don't need that money. It's not like it's going to be like, "Oh boy, we fell a little bit short. We're not going to be able to afford it." So come on, man.
And also, there's no way for us to track this, right? There's no way for us to like fact check it. And so, of course, I mean, and look, you can't do the announcement tease that they did plus this, no matter what. Even if not a single dollar was donated, you still got to do it just because you've done it at this point. Yeah, the relationship between the athletic department and the fans has becoming just fascinating, honestly, to me.
It's weird.
It's very weird. I just am glad that he didn't try to frame it like he's trying to raise money, which is pretty much his job. And I have no problem with him doing that. I'm just glad he did this rather than trying to be like, "Well, other teams spend more money, so y'all should spend more money." Right. You poors. I'm glad he didn't do that. At least he just tried to have some fun with it. Man, has anybody had more of a roller coaster 2024 from a PR standpoint than Hunter Yurachek? It's been all over the map, dude, because there was times where I'm like, holy cow, like they're about to revolt against this guy. Then he pulls off the cow thing and you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, he'll be all right." Now it seems like he's kind of down a little bit. He had some weird comments a couple weeks ago at the Touchdown Club, but now I feel like he's almost back in the good graces. Regardless, I know people were rubbed the wrong way by him asking for money again. I don't think they should be, frankly, just because he's going to continue to ask for money. He's going to continue to try and get people to donate to that collective, which is all fine and dandy as long as they're getting those $500,000 donations, because that kind of stuff matters way more than whether or not Trey and Harrison donates $20. And so, I think it's all fun and games, and I think they're going to have Slobber Hog on the court. I think we all agree that that's happening regardless. And let's just not look further than that.
Exactly.
They got $500,000 from an anonymous donor, and they got Slobber Hog. This is good news. Okay. Can we accept that?
Well, it was funny because when I first saw this, I immediately had the reaction of, okay, there's no way that they're sitting there about to tear up the court, about to put something else, and then Johnson comes over here, is like, Hunter, hey, I got an idea. I know we're going to put a different logo on there, but what if everybody's wanting the Slobber Hog? What if we just make it to where you get money in for the NIL, and then we can trick them and say, "Hey, donate and we'll do this for you." And then your chick's like, "Johnson, that's brilliant." And then let's put it together and let's put the plan together. Like, no, that they were going to put the Slobber Hog on no matter what, like you said, Curtis. That's 100% true. And anybody that thinks that anything different, you're kidding yourselves. They weren't going to be like, "All right, let's sand it." Well, what are we going to do with it? I guess we're just going to have to wait and see how much money the NIL program gets. Like, there's no way that they were doing that. So that's my first thing. And here's my second thing. And this, I'm glad you brought it up, Andrew, because I wanted, bear with me. There's a little bit of a rant I want to have with this Arkansas Edge and with this NIL and everything, because this is bigger than that. Y'all need to get on the same freaking page, okay? Because today you have this coming out about the Justin Moore concert up here at the Walmart Amp, and now all of a sudden gets promoted like all over the place. It was like, "Oh, don't worry, the proceeds are going to go to the NIL program." This is the day of the concert, okay? Maybe instead of being like throwing things against the wall last minute, Start coming up with a game plan to start having this stuff happen in the way that it should be, because you're looking inept. You're looking like you don't have any, there's no communication going through. And maybe there's not. But you have this thing with the court. It's like, okay, they put up the video. Why didn't y'all make this big, you got a marketing department, make this big plan of like, hey, I got an idea, and then you put it together slowly, surely, blah, 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 blah. But instead, it's like, hey, you got till October 7th and get $500,000. Go.
Yeah.
Like,
You have to
no. Yeah, until like literally in, what was it, 4 days from now. And then you got this thing with like the Justin Moore. I know, like they're pumping it out, but it's the concert's tonight.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't know. I mean, I heard about it today when like an hour ago when it came out.
And that is what's pissing me off about this, because I'm not blaming Arkansas Edge or Yurachek or whoever it is. I'm blaming where it just seems like everyone is so disconnected and have no idea what's going on that they just come up with these random ideas at the last minute and be like, hey, listen, the offensive line is going to be at this restaurant here today. Go. Like, start putting it together and planning and promoting it that way so fans can be involved, so people can come out and be involved. And so that way, if people are going to the Justin Moore concert 2 weeks ago, they find out, hey, by the way, that's Justin Moore concert in 2 weeks, the proceeds from all the merchandising or whatever are going to go to the NIL. You're like, oh, okay, well, you know what? I can plan for that now. I can look forward to that. But instead, you just go on Chuck and Bo's show in the morning and be like, hey, we're going to do this. Oh, okay, go. Get to the place. Go to the app. Hurry. Spend your money. It's going to the NIL.
Also, does it
come
count?
Up with a plan?
Does this count towards the 500,000?
It better.
More proceeds?
I think it should. I think
really
it should.
really good points there, John, because it's a lot of these things, these ideas are great in theory, but it's just like they're shooting from the hip.
Yes.
You know, it's like instead of coming together and having a think tank and being like, okay, here's some really good ideas. Maybe these are ways that we can promote it and get on the same page and maybe do a press release and really, you know, get the most bang for our buck or get the most bang for everybody else's buck or whatever. But yeah, instead of that, it's just like, you're right. Like, oh, good idea. Let's throw it out there right now. So Hunter, tweet it, and then we'll figure it out from there. Yeah. The communication, there's some kind of just weird disconnect there, and you're 100% right, man. It's got to get on the same page.
I tell you, they should have gotten in cahoots with Chapel Roan. That concert last night, I did not attend, but I know people that did. I know Andrew Hutchinson attended. They called the Hogs. The Spirit Squad was there, but that sucker was packed. They should have sent all those proceeds, because it seemed like they were raking it in last night.
I don't even know who that is, but apparently they're very popular. Because I
don't know who it is either. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Us 36-year-olds that don't know what don't know what that is. But yeah, that's the problem that I have with all of this. And again, like you said, Curtis, it's good. They're good ideas. They're good things, and they're things that can work. But it just continues to come across like no one knows what the heck they're doing, and that's bad. That's very bad. You got to, and I don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't know how much the NIL department and of Arkansas Edge is communicating with Yurachek or vice versa or whatever. But it's just, since this has started, it continues to go on and on and on, where I'm just like, okay, you can't just expect everyone to drop what they're doing and flood this money in and be like, well, if you got to be at the Justin Moore concert, like, oh, okay. It's like, wish I would have known that.
At our stream, they're going to be on our stream, and so they're not going to be able to
100%.
go to the concert.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, maybe we should start doing that. Maybe we should start planning out, an NIL stream that is just on a certain time. We promote it, and then we're like, hey, all this money, for sure, wink, is going to go to the NIL program.
Hey,
yeah,
listen,
actually, we
every
do that.
super chat today, from this point forward, I will consider handing it to a random student athlete at the University of Arkansas.
That's
I'll
nice of you.
consider it.
Yeah. Do your
I might
part and
Venmo
get the
Ryder
Slobber
Helfrich.
Hog.
Yes.
I'll Venmo Ryder Helfrich if y'all to every super chat. I'll give him 10%.
Well, I did laugh because not to get too off on it, but on Locked On, I've been having to do reads for Roy, which is this NIL thing. It makes me laugh because it's like I get to choose, or we get to choose the player that it goes towards, and they get $100 just for, it's like, I'm like, man, I need to start getting to these players, be like, hey, I'll say your name on Locked On if you come on for an interview. I need to start doing that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to know that they actually get $100, because I definitely did that last week, and I was like, I'm giving $100 to TJ Metcalf for his performance against Auburn. And I was like, I said that out loud. I'm not giving him $100, but good to know somebody is. So.
Yes. That's the point of them is you get to choose and then they get that money and they send it to the player. That would be pretty messed up.
I wondered how that worked. I was just following the rules, but
yeah. Well, I did too, and I wanted to clarify because I'm like, man, you ain't just taking my $100 and sending it to him. Like, I ain't doing that. They're like, no, we send it to him. I was like, oh, that's nice. Very good. Let's see. Oh man, it's not that witty. He's like saying these are basting marketing ideas. They're just dropping the ball. And just like, bro, all right, thank you.
Gosh.
Gotta relax,
we need to start giving Broden all the super chats of witty.
I'm serious. I may do it. We're gonna make him a rich man. Suddenly, Witty F is gonna give him the biggest NIL deal he's ever had. He's like, I'll give you all this money, Broden. All I get to do is just destroy you and make fun of you and make jokes about you all the time.
Hopefully, it's an electronic transfer because according to Witty, I don't know if he'd be able to actually receive the payment.
Yeah, that's true. Let's go back to the phone lines. Interesting here. I think this is what it says, but it's Blake who's in California. What's going on, Blake?
Hey guys, this whole Hunter Yurachek had me thinking here that this is twice it's happened now that he's come out with a story about the NIL, and it happens to be once the seat starts to get a little hot about the football program. I think the first one was after Oklahoma State. It was UAB, and now after the A&M game, this comes out. And I can't decide if it's him trying to get the pressure on him, so he's kind of taking the fall of the anger of the fan base here for the football program to give them more of a target for him to take it on, or if he just can't read the room and when the football program's at its lowest in the season that he's asking for money. Just curious if you guys put any thought to that. The timing just seems odd every time there's a Yurachek NIL story.
Yeah. Appreciate the phone call.
Yeah, that's actually that's a really good question. And I think back to, Andrew, you mentioned like his roller coaster ride of a 2024, and it would be easy to look at it and go, yeah, this dude, sometimes he does struggle to read the room, man. Like the whole thing with the random, bus video where he actually wasn't back, but and then it was radio silence. That was awkward going on the random podcast. It's like, what are we doing here? But then you also think, okay, this guy is the athletic director at the University of Arkansas. Like maybe there's a method to his madness. And you think that, and then it comes out and you're thinking, well, maybe he was just trying to force Eric Musselman's hand to kind of, crap or get off the pot, and then he winds up getting John Calipari after all this. And then he does the thing with the NIL and all of a sudden, and, I don't know how much money they raise or whatever, but it's like, hey, we've had a few hundred extra people added to the edge. And now he's doing, so maybe there's a method to his madness. I don't know if there's a correlation to him going, whoo, yeah, things are rough with football right now. Let me see what I can do here. Or maybe he's just doing his job, which is to try to fundraise, get more NIL for this football program. And he's kind of hedging it from the standpoint of, hey, these guys are tough right now. People are complaining about the quarterback. Here's an idea. If you want a better quarterback, let's get more money in this NIL so we can go out and buy him. I don't know. Maybe it's that.
Yeah, it's weird. And like I said, it's been a roller coaster for Hunter Yurachek. And I hope I'm like, we're not being too hard on him, because if you look at what Hunter Yurachek has done as the athletic director at Arkansas, it's like 96% positive, like across all sports. Like he's done a good job. The coaches that he's had to hire have typically worked out pretty well. Pittman, that is the one that you could say it was a bad one, and it's going to turn out to not be a great one. But also it's like, I don't know if they necessarily were in a position to bring in a high level coach then. Just like I don't know if they're in a position to bring a high-level one in now. The thing that Hunter Yurachek I've noticed is doesn't seem like he communicates with anybody before he does stuff. Like I think the Eric Musselman bus tweet was just a heat check from him on Twitter. I think him going on that stupid podcast, I think that was just something he decided to do. I don't think he...
Both of those are facts, what you just said, by the way.
Right, yeah. I think 100%. And I also think this Slobber Hog tweet, maybe there's some method, but it's like I really think he just feels himself and starts tweeting stuff and saying stuff, which he's entitled to do. He's the athletic director. He's the head honcho. But I definitely, John, when you were talking about how there's no connectivity between the athletic department of the messaging they're putting out, I think it's a little bit tough whenever, Yurachek just goes rogue every now and then.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to bring this up, and I'm sure no one's going to get pissed off by this at all, but just know I'm not meaning anything negative or anything attacking anybody, because I know how the climate is. But Yurachek gives some Donald Trump vibes, man, when he's out here and he's just like, because you know what Donald Trump tweets, man? He ain't going through nobody. And it's just like, and then his people owners like, man, I really wish you wouldn't have tweeted that. He's like, I don't give a rip. I'm the athletic director. What you gonna do about it? But that's the thing. He's like, he goes rogue a little bit, and he comes in. And then again, I have no problem with Hunter Yurachek, because sometimes people forget that the athletic director, their job is a little bit more than just hiring and firing coaches. Like that's all. Sometimes that's all they think they're worth. Yeah. Oh well, I mean, you just stay over there in your corner until somebody needs to be fired, and then we'll bring you in. No, this isn't some Julie Cromer people's crap. He actually has more stuff to do. He's got to go out there and fundraise, and that's what he does. So I never will ever take issue with Hunter Yurachek doing things, putting out tweets, whatever, to raise money for whether it's the NIL, the Razorback Foundation, or whatever. I'll never take issue with that. But again, it's just about the messaging seems so odd. And we know that Blueprint Sports is the company that runs the Arkansas Edge, to which, just to be honest with everybody, the Arkansas Edge, 15% of those donations go towards Blueprint Sports. The 85% goes to the student athletes. So when you have a third-party company over here running the company for here in Arkansas, this company's in California, they don't know much about Arkansas, so you have this going on. And then Yurachek in the U of A, they can't technically, do things to pay players. The university can't. So they're having to be very careful with the messaging. And then coaches can't do anything. You got Sam Pittman going, oh, shucks, I don't know. And then, somebody's got to feel it out and, be able to do things there in the middle. It's just a chaotic mess that Arkansas seems to, at least right now, be making worse in the eyes of the fans, because it seems to be all over the place. That's just how I view it. But
Yurachek is Trump is not what I expected to.
Hey, man.
John's feeling himself on his birthday.
They're eating the dogs. Hey, donate to Arkansas Edge and get these guys a hamburger.
We're gonna have a big, beautiful quarterback, the most beautiful quarterback you've ever seen. That would be great if he did some stuff like that. But again, I want to reiterate, I have no problem with Hunter Yurachek. I don't have any disagreements with Hunter Yurachek. I'm not saying Hunter Yurachek's at fault here. I'm just saying that everybody needs to at least give the perception that y'all are all on the same page and y'all are all doing the things and plan stuff. Because, if you could do, and I'm just throwing this out as an example, but say if it was for the Texas game right now, they came out and said, everybody, the Texas game at 11 a.m. in Fayetteville, for either outside the stadium or inside the stadium, we are going to be charging an additional $1 for water and soft drinks. And you're like, oh, that's bull crap. Well, hey, that extra $1 is going towards the NIL department, and it's going to pay for this. And then people will be like, okay, yeah, hey, kids, come on, let's go make sure we get these overpriced bottles of water, so that way we can get ourselves a linebacker. At least, whether it's true or not, but at least gives the people a way of knowing, being aware of it, and knowing where it's going and knowing how they can do it. I don't think that's that difficult, but it just seems like it is.
Yurachek could really win everyone over if he gets this 50-50 thing rolling.
That's right.
Yeah.
And by the way, he did himself a favor by kind of publicly supporting the idea when he went on Chuck and Bo show or whatever, and he was saying like, oh yeah, I like it, but we need that legislation or whatever. He kind of echoed what Carlton said. That's the way that, stuff like that. And I will say, I'll give Hunter Yurachek this credit. He does seem to have his finger on the pulse of what people are saying and thinking. A lot of times he can feel that negativity and he tries to say something, and he might not always say the right thing, but he does seem to at least have his finger on the pulse of what people are feeling, what people want. And I would say the Slobber Hog thing is an example of that. Again, the messaging is weird and sometimes it's incorrect, but he does seem to have an idea of what people are talking about and kind of what the narrative is. And so I do want to, it kind of commend him on that of trying to kind of be in front of some of this stuff. Sometimes they go about it in weird ways.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too. You gotta just make it make sense for someone like me, a simple-minded person, where it's just just give me, I don't want the labor pains. Give me the baby. Just tell me, where do I write a check and what does it go to? Okay, thank you. All right, I'll go do that. But yeah, because I don't know, maybe guys, I know we're talking a lot about this, but I think it's a good conversation. But are other schools doing it this way? Are other schools having this weird communication problem right now? That's what I wonder.
I'm sure.
I would think
communication thing, but they do weird stuff like Justin Moore concerts and stuff. I see random things where random schools will just be like, "Oh, we're gonna do this thing, and the proceeds will go to NIL," and it's like I think people are just throwing anything they can against the wall and hoping it sticks.
Yeah, I feel that. Let's go back to the phone lines. Looks like we got Parker, who's in Jonesboro. What's up, Parker?
What's going on, man?
What's up, dude?
Can y'all hear me? I'm on a tractor, so I might be a little loud. But anyway, I got one question for you. What do you think the vibe is in the locker room right now? I know y'all aren't in there. I'm not in there. But, I mean, do y'all have any kind of idea of what y'all might think it's like if anybody's throwing the towel in or whatever? And Curtis, you talked about it. I remember the interview Pittman had on the sideline, and I remember looking at my dad saying, that's the Pittman, I like. It's got his fire. Like, it meant something to him. It seems like I can't ever think of a time that I've seen Pittman just chew on somebody, chew on a ref, and you hear Armstrong getting after his offensive line. The hell, it's good. Hold people accountable. I mean, and we're not in practice or anything. Pittman might be getting after them over there, but it's good to at least hear somebody's trying to, get after them and demand better out of each other, because it still means something to them, I guess, And you see Petrino getting on Taylen Green all the time. I mean, I like to see that. I hope it all works out, and we'll see how it goes, I guess. Anyway, y'all have a good one. Happy birthday, John.
Thanks, Parker. Appreciate your call, man. I guess, yeah, go ahead, Curtis.
I was just gonna say, yeah, the stuff with Pittman there on the sideline. Yeah, I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before that we got to talking about that, and I don't know. Like, I think we would all like to see just a little bit more fire out of him on sidelines, press conferences, whatever, because a lot of times teams take on the personality of their head coach, and I've seen a lot of people say, "Hey, it seems like Arkansas's got a lot of really good guys on this football team." And that's awesome. That's exactly what you want. But you'd also like to see a little bit more edge and a little bit more stuff to them in certain situations. And maybe that's the difference in some of these one-score games. I don't know. But yeah, to the point about the locker room, I don't know. I think last weekend was the first time that I sensed that maybe frustration could turn into, just something more than that, or might linger beyond, the 4 quarters of the football game. But I don't know that I'm to the point now where I think there's like big fractures or anything like that. I really don't think they're there. This seems like it was and has been a pretty close-knit group. But this week, I think we will learn a lot about Arkansas. Like, you got a hell of a challenge here. Do you kind of let go of the rope and just get beat up on? Because then I'm starting to get really concerned. Or do you, show some fight and come together? It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the football game, but then you feel a little bit better about the big picture of the season of what's to come for a bye week. Because it's a big deal going in this bye week, win or lose, to just still have that togetherness, and maybe something that you can cling on to moving forward. 2 weeks is a long time between football games, and it's not always a good thing.
Speaking of the vibe in the locker room, I hope the only thing being discussed in that locker room is, how do we beat the hell out of Tennessee?
Yep.
What do we got to do this week? What do we got to do today? I understand the people like us, we can have these big picture conversations, and frankly, we hate it sometimes. We would much rather you guys care about the Tennessee game so we could just talk about it and talk about what's going to happen Saturday. But I think in terms of the players in that locker room, it has to be as simple as, we have to play our best game of the year Saturday. How do we show up Saturday, and how do we play well? And for Pittman in the messaging, I think that needs to be there. You don't have to sell the team of, hey guys, don't quit, don't roll over and quit. The rest of the season, we still got a chance. Like, just, you got to come out and play with your hair on fire against Tennessee. Figure out the rest later, because like you said, Curtis, you have 2 weeks of a bye week. Then you can kind of have that big picture reflection and kind of, who are we? What are we going to do? Whatever. But you got to find a way to show up and play this weekend, win or lose. You just got to show up. And touching on Pittman's personality and kind of his demeanor, I know that he has a little bit of that edge to him. I know that deep down there is that. We see it, dude. I'll tell you, when you're at practice, you see it when he's coaching the O-line. You remember that time he dropped a D's nuts joke on those guys? He was like, so these nuts, like he gets angry when he's talking to that offensive line, and he's really coaching, which is offensive line is obviously what he does. And every now and then you see moments of it, like in that first quarter interview. I really think that, and I'm not asking Pittman to just start going crazy, but I know that somewhere, whether it's behind closed doors, whether it's to the team, I know that there's a fire in Pittman that comes out here and there. And so I look forward to seeing if we see some of that Saturday. And I'm sure that, if Arkansas plays well, we'll see after the game his pregame speech or whatever it is. I know that there's a side of him. I know everybody does the Paul Pittman jokes and all that. He's not just this Eeyore guy all the time. We make fun of him for being Eeyore in the press conferences, but he's not like that with the team every day. We don't always get to see that, but I do think that if there's ever a week for Pittman to have that intensity, I would like to think that it's coming out this week against Tennessee.
Well, let me throw this into the mix too, because I agree, but it makes me wonder. Sam Pittman, who I like, Sam Pittman also is very, and maybe to a fault, maybe in a bad way, cares way too much about what people think. And he can say he doesn't. Guys, we made him stop using the phrase things of that nature. We did that over a podcast name. He stopped using it. And it's like, no offense, but dude, who cares what a podcast name is? And it's not even in a negative thing, but he does that. And then I remember when he first got here, and I respect this. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I remember he was talking about when he lost all that weight from year 1 to year 2 and even to year 3, because I don't know if he brought it up or maybe somebody was reporting, but people were using and recruiting negatively about, man, you're going to go play for that fat slob or whatever. And he took it to heart, and it's like he made a change, which again is a good thing. But then there's cases where I'm like, man, who cares what people say? Who cares what people are coming at you for? And so that makes me wonder, this Eeyore mentality thing is maybe just the safest bet, to where it's not, because he's afraid that if he does go off or does say something, then people are just going to talk about it and go after him for it. And he's just such a nice guy. That's where it comes across to me. He cares way too much about what people think and are going to say. I just get that vibe from him too.
Yeah, no, those are decent points there for sure. Yeah, that have to be considered. There was a lot that went on last year with all that stuff when I know he shut down social media for a while with everything going on, and it was, so yeah, that's actually a really good point. One other thing that I want to add, just given the context of like the Taylen Green situation, lack of confidence, whatever, is I guarantee you that locker room right now, like there's no divide between Taylen Green and the rest of his offense or whatever. Like those guys are picking him up and rallying around him. And it's not a situation where Taylen Green's, like frustrated his offensive line and, is not hanging out with those guys or whatever. He's not that kind of guy. We know that for sure. Just look back to after that Auburn game when he extended the press conference to like go player by player and give those guys shout outs. So from that standpoint of it with the leadership, and there's hell of a lot of things he's got to work with. But I don't think there's any, bad blood, animosity, anything like that going on in that locker room on that side of the ball. And there's no reason to think there is on defense, because they're playing their asses off right now.
Wade, I got to fact check you. I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back too much. There was a spring press conference in, I guess it was March or April. I don't know, maybe February, where Pittman did a press conference and said things of that nature. Our pregame or our Pot of That Nature preview thing, our intro is from that press conference, which is when we cut it together and we're like, oh, we're going to do this. And then it was after that, once we did our show, that he said, oh, I've got to stop. It was the next press conference after that where he was like, oh, I've got to stop saying that. I've got to stop saying that. And he spoke to John about this in real life. So I'm not trying to give us too many props here, but 1000% there is a direct correlation to when we did the podcast and when he stopped saying things of that nature.
Yep.
Just wanted to say.
Yeah, let's get it straight, folks. It shows exactly how much power we have here at Inside Arkansas.
You're still a liar, Andrew.
Still a liar.
Liar, pants on fire. Hey, we got another caller. We'll get to this real quick because I know we'll have some other things to dive into as well. I believe this is Mike calling in. What's going on, Mike?
I'm doing good. How y'all doing today?
Doing great.
Great, man.
I hear the voice and I see the hair, but I'm not seeing the legs today. But that's okay. Maybe a little bit later. Well, I called it earlier this week talking about going big and going big and all that stuff. But today I want to talk about, what do y'all think our identity is and what do you think it should be? Because right now I think that's more of a problem. We have an identity crisis. I think we got a lot of talent. They all like each other. I think the coaches are decent and everything like that. But what would you say our identity is right now? And I also have a would you rather question I want to ask y'all after y'all get done.
I think the the identity probably should be just play really good defense and run the football. I'm not saying 100% run the football, but like that's the bread and butter of your offense. It's what you do the best. It's what your offensive line is capable of producing for you better than anything else. And yeah, so run the ball, play defense. I don't know if Petrino likes that, but that's what I think it is.
Well, and some of the best plays that Arkansas has had offensively have been big plays in the passing game. And so I think there's a little bit of that, but I don't think that's, I think the running the ball should be the priority. And then Taylen should not be throwing 46 passes in these games.
No.
I think it's more of being strategic with those shots.
Keep them honest.
And, having them complement your run game and being on play actions. And of course, if it's 3rd and 9, you kind of have to use some of that Taylen magic. But I agree with what Curtis said. I think it should be, shortening these games as quickly as possible. Maybe even having those games like against Tennessee, you're not going to be able to run the ball for 250 yards. But if you can commit to it and you get the quarterback involved and maybe you're able to hit some big plays over the top, you can kind of hang with a team like that. And so I think at least for this team this year and for the rest of the season, I agree with what you said on Monday night, Mike, about how they kind of probably do need to just embrace the physicality and being who they are, because it's not like this team is going to be a win from the pocket and win throwing the ball 42 times a game type of team.
And I agree with them. So there you have it.
And that is a fact, man. Yeah, no, I agree with everything y'all said, man. And I think we just need to get back to it. But I do have a would you rather question for y'all real quick. And before I ask it, I do like Taylen Green, but I think he's going to be really good next year if we can keep Bobby Petrino around. Who knows what's going to happen with that situation? I just don't know about this year. Kind of what I expected from him this year, being that he is still an inexperienced quarterback. He didn't play as much as people think he did at Boise State, but he's still talented, and I think he just needs another year. But the would you rather question is, you have two teams. You could either keep the team as constructed and replace Taylen Green with Tyler Wilson, or you can keep the team as constructed, keep Taylen Green, but you get to add any player from the history of Razorback football. What you going to do?
Ooh. Well, appreciate the phone call, Mike, but that's an interesting question.
I got to be honest. I'm going to just say this from the top. Y'all know who would suck in this offense? Tyler Wilson. Because you know who sucked his senior year whenever he didn't have an offensive line? Tyler Wilson. I don't know if Tyler Wilson is necessarily and Tyler Wilson's one of the best quarterbacks in school history. But I mean, he was on a 4-8 team when the pieces around him stunk. So I think we've kind of learned he's not the guy that's going to elevate a bad offense necessarily.
My thought it would be who would be the non-quarterback who would be the one guy who could be that big difference maker.
Man.
You get Traylon Burks in there with Andrew Armstrong for a little 1-2 punch. I don't know.
I'll say if they had Traylon Burks, it would definitely be a big deal.
Would one great offensive lineman make that much of a difference? I don't know.
Would you replace Frank Ragnow in there at center?
Hey, I mean, something like that could make a difference, but yeah, that's the toughest thing is because offensive line just about the unit and all of that. But man,
what would break my heart is Darren McFadden running for 17 times for 42 yards against Tennessee if we put him in there running back.
Yeah, jeez, yeah. I don't know. That's a good because I don't think it's the Tyler Wilson thing, and I'm not saying anything about Tyler Wilson negatively. It's just it doesn't matter if the offensive line can't block for him, then it doesn't matter. Tyler Wilson just getting thrown into this doesn't make the offense go. It requires more than that. But I don't know.
About 3 concussions on this team.
Yeah, dude, he'd get worked over. I don't know. Maybe the offensive line is a thing. Maybe he's throwing a Sean Andrews or something like that. Maybe a Jason Peters who was a tight end and does play offensive line. A little hybrid.
Hey, Mike. Mike, you were saying that Arkansas needs to just have 6 offensive linemen. Jason Peters might actually low key be the answer.
He would be that guy.
Another tackle and a tight end.
Yeah, something like that could work. By the way, who was it that called in from Thailand and it was weird?
That was Pooh Bear.
It's Pooh Bear to Plug.
Okay, well, Pooh Bear to Plug's back on the line because he's calling in from Thailand again.
And say he wants to talk Taylen Green.
Yeah, well, here you go, Pooh Bear. What's up, man?
Happy birthday, John. How you guys doing today?
Thanks, man. Doing good.
Man.
So I just want to talk a couple stats. And it's not like I'm wanting to give Taylen Green the Harry Potter treatment where we lock him in the basement and never see him again. I want to make that very clear. I do. I really do. But I want to kind of hash over these things. You know, like how Arkansas ranks 80th in pass offense efficiency to match with Taylen Green's 54% completion percentage, which is 16th in the SEC. I don't really see how that's going to help us specifically in this Tennessee game because of their defensive front. You know, it's very similar to this Texas A&M front, but I think they disguise their blitz a lot better, especially with that film that is on OU. They bring up those inside linebackers like they're going to blitz that A-gap, but then they bring in that outside linebacker at the very last second, and then the inside backers drop into coverage. So, I mean, what do you guys have to say about that?
I mean, I guess my question is like, what is the alternative here? You know, like I look at Taylen Green, and I get it. Like, but we've been telling you guys all along that this dude's he's not going to come in here and complete 75% of his passes. He is not an accurate passer. He's not the best decision maker. And then we were getting drugged for it, not necessarily by you, but for being negative. And then now it's playing out and everybody's like, oh, did you guys know this was a thing? Of course we know it's a thing. Yeah, I just, you know, I think for me with Taylen Green right now, and Andrew's mentioned this a lot, like it's a big picture thing with this offense. He shares a lot of the blame with some of the struggles that they're having, but so does the offensive line. So does receivers not being able to get open, everything else. And so I look at it and I wonder, okay, so if Arkansas went to a different quarterback, is that going to change everything else that's going on with this offense? And then where does that weigh out with Taylen Green's ability to improvise and create something out of nothing? Because frankly, in terms of scoring, that's been about the only way they've done it the last couple games is Taylen Green improvising, making a random play, getting away from duress or pressure or whatever, and just heaving one, playing sandlot football. And I understand that's not what you want to see, and it's not the most efficient thing in the world. But replacing that, I don't know. Like he's not the most efficient guy in the world. I just think he's your best option by far.
I think he is too. And here's my thing is we talked about this a little bit on Pot of That Nature this morning that Arkansas is not going to be able to move the ball consistently against Tennessee. Like nobody's been able to do it all year, like sustaining long drives, having those 9, 10, 75-yard drive, 10 plays, 75-yard drives. Like I don't think Arkansas is going to be an efficient offense, regardless of who they have at quarterback this week. I mean, Tennessee allows 50 yards per game on the ground per game. And so it's like, if Arkansas is going to have success offensively in this game, it's going to come from some of that dynamism, you know, some of those big plays over the top. It's going to be getting out on the edge and, you know, getting to if they're going to get stuff going in the run game, Taylen's obviously going to have to be a huge part of that. Which I mean, he's the number one rushing quarterback in the SEC. So like, obviously his legs are a factor. I know everybody always says like, I know he's a good rusher, but it's a pretty big, you know, thing to ignore here. And so I just, again, I'm with Curtis where I'm like, I don't know how if a redshirt junior, we're saying he's going to be overwhelmed by the Tennessee defense and the pass rush and the way they disguise their blitzes. Why would a redshirt freshman who was literally just overwhelmed by Auburn's defense last week when they put him out there, like we think he's going to go in and just be like 28 for 37 for 350 yards against Tennessee? I think we're living in fantasy land for a little bit here.
So I completely agree with that. But my whole thing is, it goes back to the whole Justin Moore concert, right? Like we're never prepared for absolutely anything. So let's talk worst case scenario. What if NIL money isn't there for Taylen next year? Like we all want it to be. I want to see that kid succeed, and I want him to make as much money as possible. But what if that's not there? And then we have a redshirt, you know, sophomore that has never seen any type of SEC play. And then when do we think about other players? You know, just for example, Teslaw's a redshirt senior. Armstrong's a redshirt senior. Hudson Clark's a senior. Jaden Johnson's a senior. Gregory's a redshirt senior. You know, all these guys, Landon Jackson could be going to the league. When do we start thinking about the team as a whole as, hey, maybe we need to mix it up, you know, and just at what point does that become a reality? Like, I'm not calling for bench Taylen Green and never play him again. Like, what I want to see is a very competitive quarterback battle. I mean, I'm not saying this is how you go about it, but at what point are we like, okay, maybe we need to kind of create this battle instead of just giving it to him, you know, kind of lean back to more of making him earn it.
I would say if he like lost to Mississippi State or something like that, which, you know, again, is a little bit further down the road, and it was clear, it's like, okay, Arkansas is not going to be able to make a bowl game. They're not going to be able to really be a competitive team this year. Then you can have that conversation. But the unfortunate reality is, if this whole thing with Taylen Green and Bobby Petrino doesn't work, all these players that we're talking about, those seniors and the freshmen, you're going to be starting over completely with the new head coach, new OC, new everything. That's very much a possibility. And so, yeah, you can play Jack Lindsey for the final game. It don't mean nothing. I mean, we've seen this play out 1,000 times where it's like, yeah, they played Connor Nolan in that Missouri game way back in the day. It's like, but when you fire the coach, none of that really matters. You know what I mean? And also, they did, again, I know everybody, like, it was 3 plays. They did play Malachi. They made the decision to go with Malachi Singleton against Auburn and immediately regretted it. And look, maybe later in the year, which again, the Mississippi State game is later in the year. Maybe later in the year, it'll be the time to do that. I just think we're a pretty good ways away from that point.
Yeah, I think there's I don't know, like, you can't think about the future when there is no future if this particular experiment doesn't go well. So, like, to piggyback off what Andrew said there. And then in terms of like when you make those moves or when you mix it up or whatever, I don't think it's right now. If there was a quarterback competition, there would have been a quarterback competition, and there just wasn't. And I'm not saying that was the right move to make, you know, like maybe they should have brought somebody else in to compete with Taylen Green, or maybe Malachi is better than they thought they were, and that should have been more of a thing. But it just wasn't. And it is difficult for us because we're not they've closed down practices since the end of fall camp. So who knows? For all we know, Singleton, maybe he is taking more reps with the ones, and they're trying to prep him and have him ready if they need to turn to him, because they understand that things aren't going great with Taylen Green. I have no idea, and nobody does unless you're out there. But you definitely don't do that now. If the wheels fall off against Tennessee and they want to turn to Singleton and see if he can give them I'm going to use the word spark, you're not going to hear me complaining about it too much. But at the very least, like, those are the things that you do during a bye week when you have a couple weeks to get those reps and get people comfortable. And you have 2 of them. Exactly. So if I'm looking at, if things keep going poorly with Taylen Green, like, when would they ever look to make those moves and those kind of decisions? I think it would be probably during one of those 2 bye weeks.
I know everyone hates Kendall Briles, but I hope in hindsight, people have a little bit of an appreciation, one, for how easy he made coaching quarterbacks look, and for how easy he was able to adapt his offense to what he had. Because you want to know another time Arkansas brought in a transfer quarterback and there wasn't a competition? When Felipe Franks came in, and KJ was the redshirt sophomore, actually. He was older than Malachi Singleton, and it started games before. So you could have made a real argument, and there were people in the fan base who kind of were like, oh, KJ is just the guy you roll with. They bring in Felipe Franks. They don't have a battle. You know why nobody complained about it? Because the offense worked pretty well. And Felipe Franks did what he was supposed to do, was kind of that veteran. And Kendall Briles did a great job of kind of tailoring things around him. So it became a non-issue until eventually he got hurt and KJ went in there and played well. But it's like, it's only an issue because the offense sucks right now. And again, kind of goes back to the whole point we were talking about earlier. Everyone wants to just do the thing where they're like, well, the offense is struggling in SEC play. So, the quarterback, just bench him, which, like, we've seen Arkansas do that before. We watched them play 8 quarterbacks over 2 seasons. Y'all complained about that too. Now y'all are going to complain about this. Like, I do just feel like we're going to move the goalposts wherever we want to move the goalpost.
Try not to be prisoners of the moment. Like, Arkansas goes and beats Auburn on the road. And if we're pointing out, hey, like, Taylen Green, though, like, he was 12 of 27 passing and he threw a couple picks, like, that's not great. And everybody's like, oh, no, you got to consider what he did with his legs. Oh, he's a playmaker. Oh, he led 3 scoring drives after he got benched. He's the guy. And then he actually performs, quite a bit better statistically against Texas A&M, but they lose. And it's like, get him the hell out of here. I mean, Come on.
Yeah. People are, I don't know. It's just funny how when the living in the moment thing is something that we all do. I'm guilty of it, but then, I just forget about it when I was wrong. I was wrong about it. It's like, no, I was drunk, man. I know. Come on. What do you expect out of me? Okay, we just got a few minutes here. Great show and conversation, by the way. Appreciate all the phone calls and everything, folks. Want to get through this real quick too. It's our Alumni Hall question of the day. You can shop them online at alumnihall.com. All the latest and greatest, best apparel for all Razorback fans. We're going to be out there the Thursday of the LSU game. Once again, they're on location for our Inside Arkansas Live. So come out and hang out with us. But if you're coming into town for the Tennessee game, need you some apparel, 3417 North College Avenue right there in Fayetteville is the best place to go. It's Alumni Hall. And, I put it as this question. I'm going to rephrase it because I think I'm an idiot and I did it differently on the graphic than I did on Twitter. So the question is like, for people that wanted the Slobber Hog, like, why do you want the Slobber Hog on the court? And because I was curious, if somebody asked me this question, like, I don't care about the hog. What does it matter? I was like, okay, well, that's an interesting question. So let's ask, like, why do you want that? For those of you who really are passionate about it and really get fired up, why do you want that? And here's some of the responses that I got on social media. Hillbilly Hog fan says, because it makes us play better and intimidates our opponents. It gives us our players two additional inches of vertical leap and a 7-point bump and on rebounding skill. I appreciated that one. That was pretty good.
When Nate Oates in Alabama walk in and see a Slobber Hog, they're gonna be pissing down their britches.
They won't know what to do. Razor Smack says nostalgia just looks amazing. JDP says because it belongs there. Hugh of Boar say it because it's our birthright as Razorback fans. Chris says it's tradition, ties back to Barnhill and the best years of Bud Walton. Plus, it's awesome and unique. And if someone disagrees with that, then that's fine too. Cliff says we won a lot of games with that slobbering hog on the court. And then Gary in all caps, because it's tradition and long idiotic AD should never have moved it. So there you have it. That's why.
I haven't heard an incorrect point yet. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, there is no incorrect answer on this one. It's just funny where it was just one of those questions where I felt like most of the fans, which I want the Slobber Hog back on the court too, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of like when you ask somebody like, yeah, but why? Well, because like we want it. Yeah, but why? Because we want it. Like there's not really just a set answer that makes everything better. It's just for the fans to feel good. And they got it taken away by that evil athletic director, Jeff Long. And they want it back. They got rid of Pepsi, and they got to get the Slobber Hog back on the court.
Curtis, do you have a definitive reasoning for why you want Slobber Hog back?
No. I mean, I just think it's cool.
Mine, honestly, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I wouldn't be heartbroken if it wasn't on there. I just think it'd be really freaking sick if it was. So I'm pulling for it, but
I'm kind of aligned with Heartbroken Hog, where he's just like, it looks cool, like that's it. It's unique. I heard someone say that. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. It's unique, and it's like it's nostalgic one, which is fair, and I get it. Like nostalgia is a dangerous thing. The Memba berries are always strong, as John knows. But also like it just is. It's unique, and like I like when people do weird stuff with their courts. You know, I don't like Oregon's weird court that they have, where it like looks like there's like a skin disease going on somewhere in there. But I think that like it's unique and it's something that they have. I know Louisiana Lafayette has a similar thing. I don't know. It's just like, I like the look of it. And I don't buy the reasoning for why they switched it, because of it's like a branding thing. People are going to see it and not know. People see Slobbering Hog and they know that's Arkansas basketball. And if they don't know, it's like you can see Nolan Richardson court there. Like, I don't know. It's all good.
Yeah, that was going to be my thing about it. Is it to me? And I'm not speaking for the entire fan base, but I feel like to me, a lot of the fans took that as a representation of when it felt like the fans and everything that people loved about Arkansas as Arkansas fans was being taken away from for corporate reasons. You know, like it's about the branding. Who gives a rip about brand? What does that mean? Like you're a Razorback and you had a big Razorback, and that Razorback is nowhere else. Like it's not on the field anywhere. Like it's very unique to Barnhill and to Bud Walton. Like every highlight that you'll see from the end of time had that hog on there. And I think that's what people really hated about it, is it just like a representation of getting all the stuff that they felt that they loved and held dear, kind of getting taken away from them because of corporate reasons. And just, that's my opinion on it. But I think it'll be cool when they bring it back. If they were going to bring it back, it's happening. Yeah, it's going to be cool. Like imagine doing that, and then like first game against is the first game going to be Kansas at home? Or I mean the first matchup okay. So doing that with those throwback 94 unis with the Slobber Hog on there.
Nolan courtside.
Dude, yeah, Nolan on courtside. Dude, you get Bubba Hog back there, Jansen in the NFL today with his mullet and everything. Like, man, it hit me in the feels. I'd start crying. Forget who wins or loses. Arkansas won that night. That's how it would feel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so people want it. That's great. I know we, of course, usually do our prop plays for BetSaracen for the upcoming game. We're going to have to wait till tomorrow because they don't have any prop bets up just yet. So they're working
better,
on those.
guys. Come on.
Yeah. So, check out the BetSaracen app. It's the best sports betting app in the state of Arkansas, hands down. Got to be able to check that out and get it going. A few things, though, as part of your Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. Go see my boy Clayton over there. A few things, and Curtis, I know you know a little about this, but anytime I get a tagged in a tweet from Joe Tipton, I know it's big. Talking about the 5-star Malik Thomas is taking an official visit to Arkansas this weekend, according to On3. So that's pretty big.
I mean, it's big. I'm glad he tweeted that out. I've been pointing out that date for like 6 weeks now. And it's because he reported it a long time ago. It's like, I don't know why it was breaking news today, but yes, Malik Thomas will and has been visiting this weekend. Regardless, it's freaking huge, man. And you just want to make sure that he gets to campus because he did, he kind of no-showed Bama last weekend, which you love to hear. But if Arkansas gets him on campus this weekend, I think Arkansas lands his commitment. I'm not saying it's going to happen this weekend, but I think ultimately it will. And then you have a hell of a 5-star duo in the backcourt between him and Acuff.
If I say he's coming, like if I'm just like, yeah, he's coming to Arkansas, like and it ends up being correct, can I say that I got that scoop?
Sure.
Okay. Because after seeing,
I'm probably going to put in a crystal ball for him,
dude. After seeing I've seen old Brett McMurphy and what's her name get after it on Twitter.
I love that, man.
Dude, I did too. I'll be honest. I'm not a big J journalist. I'm not a reporter. So like, I think sometimes I respect it, but I also think sometimes those people get a little too much in their head about the way of doing it. I was kind of on team Brett McMurphy about that thing. I'm like, come, like, if accuracy matters. It's like, okay, but it's still going to happen. Yeah, but not now. But here in 5 minutes, it's going to. It's like, okay, like it's just it's so dumb. But I thought it was great though. I love it. I love it when national reporters and stuff start duking it out. Something magical about it.
Good times.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Marcelo for being one of the few national reporters who doesn't take himself way too seriously.
Right.
Like he just does a damn good job and like doesn't really have to like promote himself too much. He just does his job, does it really well. And when you talk to him, he's just a normal guy, man. I really always appreciate him. But John, you know how you said when Tipton tags you, you know it's a big deal. When someone asks me a basketball question, I just know it's a big deal because I'm like, why would they not go to Curtis with this? But I've had like 3 people tweet at me in the last week that were like, is Malik Thomas still visiting? What's going on? And I was like, oh, man. So I was happy to see that it apparently became now official again. I don't know.
I tell you what. Just tap into the Hoop Hogs video mailbag or the pod at the Palace, and you'd have been pretty locked in on all of this happening long ago.
Yeah, that's why I was worried I missed something. I was like, did he like, you know, and I know he canceled on Bama, so I was like, damn, did that happen to Arkansas? Like I was beginning to get a little worried, and then I was like, oh, I guess nothing.
And that's why when he tagged me in the tweet or whatever, I was like, and because, you know, we all got stuff going on. I was like, well, maybe something happened that it was not going to be happening, but now it is happening. So I was like, I don't know. Like, but
either way, great.
Yep.
Love that, man. Yeah.
Going to be coming in. Also, congrats to the captains for the Razorbacks. Okay, Nico Slaughter and Addison Nichols makes sense for obvious reasons. Anthony Switzer, okay, but Kyle Ramsey, all right.
It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting.
I mean, look, you got to hand out as many participation trophies as you can throughout the year. And you might as well hand it to the guys that Tennessee gave to you.
It might as well. They better have a good game. That'd be nice if they did. Because
they have been challenged.
Yes, they have been. Yeah. A few chats real quick before we close up shop. Shout out to Ice Cold Mint Jewett for the sponsor comments. Shout out to the ladies soccer team, number 1. Absolutely.
Good, you know, they went an entire game. I get maybe it was this past weekend where they didn't allow a shot on goal. Like not just a shutout, but like whoever they played didn't even get a shot. That's
crazy.
I feel like that's good. I don't know a ton about soccer. I feel like that's good.
Yes, and I don't want to be this guy, but I'm going to be this guy. I'm going to be this guy. You guys realize that they have played in the SEC title game in the tournament 7 straight years? And you realize no. Now they're 0-7. Now here's another great part about that. It's 7 different teams that they've lost
crazy.
to.
That's nuts, dude.
absolutely insane. They go to the championship every year, but they lose it every year for 7 straight. But it's always to a different team. Not the same team has not won the SEC title in soccer for 7 straight years. That's rough. Wow. That's really rough to do.
Crazy, man.
Arkansas in the SEC tournament championship games, man. Just it's not.
Has
doesn't
the
do.
SEC championship happened yet for soccer?
No.
Okay, so they can win it this year.
Right. Yeah, they can win it this year. But if it ends up being 8 in a row to another team, like at some point you're going to run out of other teams.
Yeah, you got to decline the invitation next time.
That's right. Smitty says, okay, on a serious note, guys, when y'all doing the college football simulation? Tonight, every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Be there. We'll be doing the live stream simulation. I'm nervous about this one, I'll be honest, but I did see that they had the new rating, or they had some updated ratings for the guys.
Shout out to Tyrone Broden for getting a bump.
Yep. I wonder if anybody got a shift down, and how come they didn't tweet them? Like, did any of them get downgraded in their ratings?
Like, had to have been.
It's a good question. I actually didn't even think about that.
I can't wait to see, because I'm like, man, did Taylen Green get bumped down a little bit? Better not have touched my boy Hudson Clark though. Like Hudson Clark, that 85 rating needs to stay.
Or he might be sub 80.
I hope they move TJ Metcalf to a safety. They had him as Arkansas's number 4 corner at like a 72 overall preseason, so he was due for a bump and just get him in the right spot.
Yeah, us three may need to get on a little bit early tonight, so we can all as a collective group go through the rosters and depth charts and like make sure that they're working out.
Yeah,
so.
Hopefully they have. Who was it? That's a starter. That's not Steven Dix. Like he's not even on there or something. Was it him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hopefully he's on there now. So
hopefully that white linebacker number 32 is not on the team anymore.
Yeah, whoever that was, like generic player there. And Aiden says, John, who's a Big J journalist, you'd like to get in the ring with and duke it out. Boy, that's a tough one. I don't know. Pat 40 maybe. I feel like I could have a go at Pat 40.
What's that other? There's a national college football guy that I hate, but I can't remember his name.
Oh, well, then you must not hate him too much.
Who are like the top college football national guys?
Oh, gee. I feel like the guy that now see his name escaped me. The guy that was actually from Arkansas and was writing for USA Today, and he was like one of the guys that was like wanting college football to come to an end during COVID.
Dan Wolken.
Dan Wolken. Yes.
Who?
Dan Wolken.
Dan Wolken. That's exactly who it is.
Yeah, we'll all fight him.
He was making me so.
Not Josh Pate. That dude's got guns for days.
Nah, I'm Team Pate, man. When it comes to a fight, I want to be on his team. It's a large human. Yeah, Dan Wolken, he was driving me nuts at the NCAA tournament because you get locker room access, which is cool. But he was just running around, like kind of like shoving his way up in front of everybody. And he's like, what do you got? Eric Musselman took off his shirt after the win over Kansas. What do you guys think? And dude, like we've written this story a million times, and yeah, he was just all over it. And he had like 15 follow-ups about it. And it's like, yeah, okay, he took off his shirt. We get it. We know that's a must thing. Come on, guy. Driving me nuts. Yeah. And then he was also asking about the basketballs being different. A lot of people are complaining about the basketballs. Are they too inflated? Not inflated enough? How do they bounce off the floor? And it's like, all right. What are we doing?
You heard it here. I can't get this type of journalism anywhere, man. Oh, gosh. Well, appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching in here on Inside Arkansas Live. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, and you also follow us on all of our social media platforms and Inside Arkansas. And check out our website at InsideArkansas.com for all the latest, greatest, up-to-date information when it comes to Razorback sports. And for Andrew Ellis and Curtis Wilkerson, I am John Neighbors. Appreciate all the happy birthday shout-outs as well. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow at noon. But we'll see you tonight for our college football simulation on EA Sports with Arkansas and Tennessee. We'll see you then.